not just here in Philadelphia proper, but also in those more rural suburbs. And that's why their campaign is leading this massive door-knocking effort out in the suburbs, again, trying to court the votes of maybe those anti-Trump Republicans who still aren't sold on supporting Harris yet.
And Vaughn, you are at Madison Square Garden in Midtown Manhattan. What can you tell us about this event with former President Trump?
Last time I was here was for a Knicks-Suns game, Rev, and this is a little bit different atmosphere than I think Madison Square Garden is accustomed to. Let's be clear. So far, we're talking about a series of pre-speakers here ahead of Donald Trump, who is slated to speak in about the next hour and a half, 2 hours, who includes a cast of his own campaign staff, from Dan Scavino to Stephen Miller to Alina Habba, but also the likes of Donald Trump's own former personal attorney and New York City Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. We also have the likes here. Imminently, you're going to be having Don Jr., Elon Musk, and right behind me, Speaker Johnson. Speaker Mike Johnson just took the stage. This is a Republican Party that is not just trying to take the White House, but also is going to be trying to hold on to majorities and take majorities in the U.S. Congress. And a lot of that's going to come down to some of these key congressional districts here in the state of New York. And so far, I think it would be an understatement to say that we have heard several vulgarities from multiple speakers, several very personal, demeaning attacks on the likes of Vice President Harris, but also people like District Attorney Alvin Bragg and New York Attorney General Letitia James. This is a moment here for Donald Trump 9 days out where he made the decision to come to New York, which he lost by 23 percentage points in 2020, but it is more of a signal that he is sending to the country that not only is he going to go into blue areas, but that this is a national campaign and one that is under the spotlight of the Madison Square Garden lights, one that he wants the country to understand that the MAGA movement, it has not decreased in size, but it has only grown over the last 9.5 years. The question is, though, Rev, has it grown to the point where it would be able to eclipse the Democratic ticket and put him back into the White House? He's trying to galvanize his Trump faithful, those Trump faithful, to turn them into Trump voters here over the next 9 days.
All right. Thank you to both NBC's Ali Rafa and Vaughn Hilliard. Joining me now is former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice. Before we get to this election, Ambassador Rice, I want to start in the Middle East. The UN Security Council is expected to meet tomorrow to discuss Israel's strike on Iran. The Biden administration has said it is hopeful the operation will lead to an end of direct confrontation between Iran and Israel. What are your thoughts on how it could impact the election?
Well, Rev, good to be with you. And I think the Israeli retaliation for the extremely strong attack that Iran launched on Israel about a month ago was rational, targeted, measured, and effective in attacking Iranian military targets. But they refrained from escalatory actions like hitting nuclear facilities or oil facilities following the advice and counsel of the Biden-Harris administration. So I do think there's a reasonable chance that this will de-escalate for the time being. And that's a testament, in my judgment, to the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Harris.
And needless to say, had they hit the nuclear or oil places, it would have escalated quickly into possibly a regional situation. But let me go to this.
And Reverend Al, when you compare that to Donald Trump, who was cheerleading for attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, knowing that we have thousands of American troops in the region who would have been in the line of fire, it just shows you how reckless and dangerous Donald Trump would be.
Talking about Donald Trump, let me go to this. More than a dozen former Trump White House officials have backed up General John Kelly's claims that his former boss, Donald Trump, fits the definition of a fascist, and repeatedly praised Adolf Hitler during Kelly's time as Trump's as the White House chief of staff. Despite that, his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, told Meet the Press today that the real danger to America was on the other side of the aisle. Take a listen.
Do you believe that people like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi are more dangerous than Russia and China?
Well, I think what Donald Trump said is that those folks pose a greater threat to United States' peace and security. What he said, and I do agree with this, what he said is that the biggest threat we have in our country, it's not a foreign adversary.
What is your response to what Senator Vance had to say?
I mean, if it weren't so serious, it would be laughable. He is saying that Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff are more of a threat to the United States than Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. That tells you everything you need to know about Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. First of all, they're terrified of, effective, smart, strong women and leaders in the United States. Secondly, they embrace and laud and praise dictators like Xi and Putin, with whom they want to become closer when they are our most formidable adversaries. These people are dangerous. Donald Trump hugs dictators. He's about to have a rally reminiscent of 1939, cheering on Nazi Germany. The people who've spoken in that rally already have been a litany of attacks on Black voters, on Latino voters, on Arab American voters. I mean, that's the divisive, dark, evil threat that Donald Trump poses, all encapsulated right there at Madison Square Garden.
And I might add, when you referred to the 1939 rally at Madison Square Garden, that was a Nazi rally. You just referenced Donald Trump is unpopular with New York voters compared to the Vice President Kamala Harris. Yet he's holding a rally this evening here in New York, his hometown, at Madison Square Garden, which some critics say, given Trump's rhetoric, harkens back to that American Nazi rallies held in the arena leading up to World War II. The Trump campaign has condemned the comparisons. How would you describe the symbolism of Trump at the Garden tonight?
I think it's all about rallying a hateful, retro, America First, which in the time of 1939, that was an America First rally. This is about recalling a time when, white supremacy and affinity for Nazism was paramount. And when you have General John Kelly sharing with the American people his direct experience with Donald Trump, who said he wants his own generals to be like Hitler's, and that Hitler did some good things. This is, in Donald Trump, somebody who emulates and admires Hitler. And this rally is a not at all subtle attempt to harken back to that. They can deny it all they want. If that were true, they wouldn't have xenophobic, racist people standing up making hateful speeches as they are doing as we speak. And God knows what Donald Trump is going to say, but he's already been clear. He views the American people, anybody who may differ with him or oppose his perspective, as being the, quote, enemy from within. And his response to that is to promise that he is prepared to use the military of the United States against his domestic opposition. Al, I can't think of anything more terrifying than that, when, in particular, when you consider that when Donald Trump was president, he had plans and intentions to use the military and was only held back by people like Kelly and General Mattis and General Milley and even Bill Barr and Mike Pence. Those people won't be there if there were to be a second Trump term. And the Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump and any president can do whatever they want with impunity. So these are deadly serious threats that we have to take seriously. We have many, many good reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, who is smart, who wants to unify the nation, who's got programs and policies to help working people with the concerns they have about high costs and housing and groceries and health care and Medicare and Social Security. But Donald Trump poses a deadly serious threat, and people need to understand what's at stake.
Ambassador, give us your overall thoughts as we head into its last full week of campaigning. Both candidates preparing their closing arguments just 9 days out from Election Day. We're out of time, but I had to get your perspective on what you
Well, it's
think
obviously
where we
going to
are.
be it's going to be a very close election, Al, as you know. I've spent the last several weeks out in Arizona, which is where I am now, and I'll be here through the election. And I see a great deal of energy and enthusiasm on our side and volunteers who are very happy to be pounding the pavement. But it's going to be very, very close. And it's going to be one on the ground with everybody signing up to knock on doors, make phone calls, and give it their all. That's how we win this.
All right. Thank you, Ambassador Susan Rice. Joining me now is Keisha Lance Bottoms, senior advisor to the Trump-Walz campaign. Thank you for joining me. As we mentioned, Vice President Kamala Harris is right now just finished delivering remarks at a campaign rally in Philadelphia. Earlier today, Harris also attended and spoke at a black church and visited a local barbershop and a Puerto Rican restaurant. What have been your thoughts on Harris's outreach in this point in the campaign, less than 2 weeks from Election Day, specifically among black voters?
Thank you, Reverend Al. It's always great to join you. Listen, Vice President Harris is doing everything that she can possibly do to reach voters. She's out pounding the pavement. We've seen some really big rallies across the country. We're all getting things in our mailboxes. We're getting text messages. We've got people knocking on doors. We have people calling people. That's how you run a campaign. And now it's up to us. I call it the power of one. What is the one thing that each of us can do to make sure that we are successful during this election season? Obviously, those of us who are registered to vote can go and vote, but also leaning in on those people in our community who are still on the fence, still undecided about whether or not they will even vote. People want to hear from trusted voices, and we are the trusted voices in our own families, in our own communities. So now we've got to do our part.
In your home state of Georgia, early voting is underway. As of Saturday night, more than 2.7 million people have already voted in Georgia. That's over half the total 2020 turnout. The total turnout in 2020, I might make clear. And today, a new ABC News Ipsos poll has Harris up 2 points nationally among registered voters and 4 points among likely voters. And while that's still within the margin of error, the poll also shows Harris is outperforming Biden among black and Latino men. What are your thoughts on the current state of play in Georgia?
Well, we know that we have this record turnout, but we still have a ways to go. There's voting going on right now in Georgia. We've seen the Souls to the Polls activities that are happening today. You can early vote through the end of next week, but we've still got to keep pressing. It's great that the numbers are strong, but it's not over until it's over. And the vice president has long said that she is running as an underdog. And when we have close polls like this, we know we really have to lean in. What I am encouraged by is that with the surge in voting that we have seen, that we are really strong. We are neck and neck with Republicans, but we're seeing something different this time. We are seeing Republicans turning out early, which they haven't done in a very long time in this state. But what is it encouraging is that over